I don't want to take any risks. No, it's not a risk.
Was it AS400 or is that software?
AS400 was introduced in 1988. We don't use it.
Gotcha.
Old stuff. It is called the IBM Power System. Okay. IBM Power System is the name of the hardware on which you run the IBM iOS, which is also called IBM I or just I. Okay, so in the IBM world and mid-range computing, they will say, I have just run it on I, and that's what they mean, run it on IBM iOS. Okay, so AS400 from 1988, that's the name of the machine. What was the name of the operating system on that machine?
$5250?
5250 is not an operating system. What is 5250?
That's the terminal.
Yeah, it wasn't like an emulator.
That's an interface. That's all it is. It's not an operating system. It doesn't matter what operating system you're using, it's just an interface.
Was it the hypervisor? I can't remember.
No, hypervisor is a layer, is one of the layers in the layered architecture of the operating system. The name of the operating system for AS400 machine was OS400.
Oh,
Okay. Before AS400, we had System 38 in the 70s. System 38 became AS400, which then became Power System over the period of time. In between that whole process, we had several other name changes. So anyway, so now it's Power System running IBM I. What other operating systems can you run besides IBM I on Power System?
hey, we got all the hard questions. Was it anything? I can't remember.
These are chapter 1, 2 questions from last semester.
Right. That's like so long ago, man. Especially for that.
Wasn't one of them Linux?
One of them is Linux. Yes, yes.
I know there was a second one, but I think I forgot that one.
The second one is AIX. Okay. IBM I OS is fill in the blank based operating system. IBM
Is it object
is
based?
an object-based operating system. Very good. Okay. Why do we have objects? What's the purpose of objects in this operating system? That's how you interact with the operating system. If it's not an object, you cannot interact with it. Everything
Right,
has to be an
library.
object for you to interact with it. That's it. Okay. IBM iOS requires dash to log in to the IBM iOS. You must have dash to log into IBM iOS.
Username and password?
The hint is the answer is only 2 words, not 5, or not 4 or 3. 2-word answer. And username and password is not the answer. The word user is in the answer, but the rest is not. No name, no and, no password. User what? You need to have,
User profile.
yes, user profile. Yep. You need to have user profile. Okay, user profile consists of your username, your password, your permissions, your initial load program, your initial menu, and all of that stuff, and more. What is the initial program load, or IPL?
Is that the boot process?
No, no. What is initial program? It's not a boot process.
Oh, does it load the OS?
As soon as you log into the OS, it is the first program that runs after the successful login. So when you log into IBM OS, what is the first screen that you see?
It's the screen that shows the latest logins, I think.
Right, exactly. So that's your initial program. When you go past the initial program, you see your initial menu. And what is the name of your initial menu?
Main menu.
Main menu, exactly. Okay. If you know the name of the menu, how can you open that menu? What command is used to open a menu if you know the name of the menu?
Go.
Go. Okay. And which command is used if you want to run a program?
STR.
You know, somebody in the daytime also gave the exact same answer for the same question. And the answer is incorrect. What is STR? What does STR stands for?
Start.
Okay. STR is not a command. STR is part of a command. So if you're thinking PDM, STR, PDM together makes one complete command. So STR is just a verb piece out of the command. So STR is not the right answer. So if I pick up the phone, what am I doing? Dialing a number and do what?
All.
That's it. Call. And you'll be using a lot of calls in this course because it's about control language programming. So we will be writing programs, we will be compiling the programs, and then we'll be calling the programs. Okay? So call is a very important component of this class. How many screen types do we have in the IBM iOS?
4.
4. And what are they?
List, menu, prompt, and the help screen.
Very good. Okay. How many types of help do we have?
2.
No.
3.
3. Okay. What are they?
Help, extended help, more information.
Yep. And how do you bring help?
F1,
Extended help?
F3,
F2.
F2.
Oh,
F2. And information center?
Is it F11 or F12?
None of the two. F13.
Oh,
Okay. And how do you press F13 on the keyboard?
Shift F1.
Shift F1. Okay. What is the functionality of the function key F9?
It brings up the last thing you entered into a prompt.
Very good. And what about F4?
Prompt.
Prompt, yeah.
Prompt, okay. So you need to type a command and then you press F4 and it brings up the prompt. Why do you want to type stuff about the command through the prompt? Why don't you just type it at the command line?
It takes you to your last one you did before.
No, I mean, if you type a command and you keep typing the whole command on the prompt, on the command prompt at the bottom, why do you type a command and then press F4 and fill the rest of the command through a screen? Why don't you just type the whole command?
So you can see the parameters.
Okay, why do you want to see the parameters?
So you know what information to enter.
Okay, that's one thing. And then what if you already know that you have to enter so and so information? Why is it still advisable to go through the prompt? So you said that you are entering data in the command, and what do you call the data that you enter in the prompt? Those are called the parameters, okay? So the parameters can be entered in how many different ways? Two different ways, okay? And what are they? We have keyword and positional. Those are the two ways, okay? So you go to the parameters through the prompt because you do not remember the correct sequence in which they should be put. So keyword and positional, what is the difference?
Keyword, it doesn't matter what order they're in, and positional have a specific order.
Yes, and how do you make sure the keyword doesn't follow any order? How do you make that possible?
Isn't it with parentheses?
And what do you write outside the parentheses? And what do you write inside the parentheses?
Keyword outside, parameter inside?
Yep, parameter value inside and keyword outside. Very good. Okay. Is it possible for me to mix and match, like some parameters I write positional and some parameters I write keyword? So for example, if I say, okay, create library, library 1, type, test. Can I do that?
No, because it'll think you're creating a library named type, I think.
But shouldn't the library name always come before the type? If I'm following the correct sequence, it should be the name, the type. So this is the correct sequence. So will all three of them work? Or only the first two will work? Yes, guys? What do you think? Only the first two or all three?
I'm stuck with the middle one. It seems like maybe the first and the last one, but that middle one's kind of throwing me off.
The middle one is a positional notation. If I know the first parameter has to be a library name and the second parameter has to be a library type, I can drop the keywords. And I can just simply write the values in the correct sequence and it will run it. This is called positional notation. If I write the parameter name outside and the parameter value inside, this is called a keyword notation. So both of these are valid. This is keyword, this is positional. The question is this valid where you do mix and match?
Yeah, I'm gonna say yeah.
And the correct answer is yes, it is fine to do that this way because it knows that library is the name because that's the first parameter you wrote. It will assume that is the name and that it is the name. The second one, it will just go by, okay, you wanted to go with the type test, so the test goes to type. Now, if I write something like this, I want the name to be library 1. Okay, so I wrote in the first parameter the keyword notation. So it knows that library 1 is the name. And in the second parameter, I just wrote test. Will this work as well? Just like the one above that worked.
You're mixing and matching again, so should it work? I mean, I think it would work, right?
No, it doesn't. It fails. It fails when you start out with keyword and try to switch to positional. Because keyword takes away the limitation that I am following a sequence. So you basically are telling it, I'm not following a sequence. And then all of a sudden you throw something that comes in, that must come in a sequence. So it just basically goes crazy. But when you start out by saying, I'm following a sequence. So, and then you put something well-defined, it takes it. But it doesn't take it the other way around. So that's why the first three are valid, but the last one is not.
So you start positional and then keyword.
Yeah, but you cannot start going to keyword and then jump back to positional.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
So the operating system works on commands. You issue a command, and that's your way of telling the operating system that I want to talk to you. And if the command is valid, parameters are valid, you have permissions, the command will work. The whole idea of this course, control language programming course, is to bring all these commands together and marry them with programming concepts and put it in a nice script and generate a program, compile it, and be able to run it. For example, if an administrator wants to run day-to-day operations, doesn't want to be there all the time and sit there at the command prompt and be able to do everything manually, rather want to write a script. For example, if I want to create 200 users, I don't want to sit there and type create user command 200 times. I'm better off writing a piece of a code and loop through that piece of code that will create 200 users for me. Okay, so that's basically one thing the control language is used for, is that allows people or programmers at the admin level to be able to write scripts for operating systems. So just so that you know, control language is not a high-level language. It doesn't have all the programming constructs that you would see in other languages. It doesn't have the concept of an array. It doesn't have so many different types of loops. It doesn't have very complicated if conditions. It doesn't have switch case. It is not very complicated in that regard. But because it's not meant for high-level language. It is not meant for you to create applications which would be like payroll processing systems or transaction processing system, or even simple applications like creating a calculator. You know what I mean? Like, it's not meant for that purpose. It is only meant for to be used by an administrator to do day-to-day operations operating system. To do day-to-day operating system operations. That's basically the whole point of this. So that's why using this language, you can't really talk to a database either, because that's not the purpose of this language is. It's not meant to store data. So it can't really add data or update data in a table. It can't really open more than 5 files at the same time. Because again, you know, that kills its purpose. So that's why it's a different kind of a language. So, and first chapter basically talks about that. Another question I have for you is that, okay, IBM I is an object-based operating system. You need a user profile to access the operating system. Once you are in the operating system, you communicate with it using commands, okay? The commands can be given to the operating system. And when a command is given to the operating system for it to do something, okay, what do you call that? Any task that you give to the operating system to do, what do you call that?
A
A
job.
job,
Okay, and jobs are categorized into how many types?
2,
2, which are
Batch and interactive.
interactive and batch. Difference?
interactive, you have
Batch.
to manually go through, and batch you can leave to work on its own.
Interactive requires you to be present while the command runs, and batch could run in the background. Absolutely. Okay, so job is a unit of work that you give to the system to do. This unit of work called job, where does it runs?
In the output queue.
That's where the output goes, but output queue and the whole thing that you have related to the job, where does it actually runs? Even your output queue is in where? It is all in a subsystem. Subsystem is an environment in which you run your jobs. And the same subsystem could be shared between several users. It's just an environment. If a subsystem goes down, only that subsystem goes down, the other subsystems running concurrently in memory on the same OS will still continue to run. So it's a subsystem-based environment. It's not like a blue screen of death will bring down the entire server. It's not like that. A blue screen of death will only bring down a subsystem which has the blue screen of death. Okay? So we have subsystems that run inside a system, which is the whole entire operating system. Okay. How many layers do we have in the layered architecture of the OS?
Is it 5?
Yes, it is 5. Okay. What is the layer closest to the per user?
The operating system?
Operating system. Okay. And the farthest away from the user? The farthest away from the user is the hardware, the risk level hardware that you have. Because the hardware is treated as a single level for all the operating systems that are running on top. So none of the operating system knows that it is not the only one getting served, but they all think that they are the only one getting served. And who makes it possible? that all operating systems are treated that way, that multiple operating systems can concurrently run and utilize the same hardware resource. Who makes that possible? It is something that has the word hyper in it.
I'm back on the hypervisor.
Yes.
Ah,
Okay. Now, right above the hypervisor, there are two additional layers, the TIMI layer and the SLIC layer, which makes the translation from OS to hypervisor layer. And from there on, it communicates with the hardware and back and forth. Approximately how many commands are there on this operating system? In this operating system?
like 2000 something.
Yeah, a little over 2000, right? Okay. If you do not know, or if you want to learn about commands, which menu do you go to learn about commands?
The command list.
What is the name of the menu which has all the command lists?
Oh, major?
Exactly, major. Go space major and hit enter. Typically, we look for commands either by verb or verb or we look up commands by verb or subject. So if you, the subject is like a noun, but we don't use that word noun, we use the word subject. So if you want to see all the verb commands, what will you type on the command prompt? You will type go
Oh, verb.
space verb, right? And
That's
if you
right.
want to see all the subjects, go space subject, okay? When you are looking at all the verbs and all the subjects, the left-hand side is the description. What is on the right-hand side?
It's like the command code.
It's basically, yeah, the name of the menu, okay? What is common in all the menu names, which are about commands?
They'll start with CMD.
They all start with CMD, okay?
Oh, that was right.
So if you want to see all the create commands, instead of you going to the verb and then locating create and then pressing the numbers next to it, you can just simply type go space CMD CRT and hit enter, and you'll be at the create command menu. If you want to see all the library commands, you can just go space CMD LIB and you'll be at the library commands. Okay. So that's how the menus are set up. When you look at the actual command itself, the command itself is divided into how many areas?
Three.
Okay, and what are they?
The verb, the subject,
And
and the parameter for the subject.
no, it's not the parameter for the subject. It's called modifier.
Hmm.
Okay, modifiers may or may not be there. There are only two commands without subject and modifier. And what are those two commands? The two commands that only have verb, but no subject, no modifier.
Go and call.
Exactly. The rest of the commands are a combination of verb subject or verb subject modifier. If I want to copy file, what should be my command? Just the command name.
CPYF.
Yep, exactly. If I want to change my current library, what command should I type?
CHGCURLIB.
Cool. If I want to edit my library list,
EDT LIBL.
yep. If I want to add something to my library list entry,
ADD LIBLE.
yep, exactly. So in some cases, you notice that after the ADD, you have LIB and you have 2 additional letters or 1 additional letter or 3 additional letters after subject. That's your modifier. Okay. When you are dealing with an object, what is it that the system checks for?
That you have authority to
Permissions.
change that.
Yeah, first of all, it needs to make sure that the object that you are calling for, you have right of access to it, right? Is it found in the library? Which library is it found? And then it needs to see if you have right of access to it and the right of access that you are asking, and then it goes from there, okay? If you are trying to call a program, for example, and you do not provide the name of the library, where does it actually searches to find the program?
If you don't specify a library, doesn't it just search your current library?
It searches your current library also. And where else does it search?
System.
No. System libraries are meant for system tasks, right? Things
Oh,
that,
true.
yeah. So it searches your current library and your user library list.
Oh, true. Yeah.
Okay. How many types of library lists do we have? So we have a current library, we have a user library. We have
Product and system, right?
exactly production and system library. Yeah. So we have total of 4. Okay. How many system libraries can you have? Maximum number of system libraries.
15.
Okay, cool. And production libraries.
Up to 2.
Okay. And the current library
Yeah, well, you're one and only, right?
and user.
250.
Yep. Cool. Awesome.
Oh, my notes held up. Nice.
Cool. Nice. So when you are interacting with an object, you provide the name of the command, you provide the name of the object, and you're starting to search for an object. So what happens behind the scene? Let's say if you say, I want to call a program called PGM1. And there is a PGM1 that is a program, and then there's a PGM1 that is a file. So how will the system know to ignore the file and only run the program?
If you specify the file type,
You specify, we don't call it file type. What do we call it? That was the catch in the question. What do you call that? It's not called file type. It's called object type. Okay. So if I say to an IBM programmer that this is my Java file, is this correct according to the grammar of IBM?
Nope,
No? Why? What's wrong?
because they only deal with objects.
Yeah, but file is an object. File is a subtype of an object. Object is a bigger umbrella and file is one of the subtypes. So I hand him over my Java program and say, this is my Java file. Is this okay?
That I don't know.
That is not an option. It's either yes or no.
Let's say yes.
Okay. Who else says yes? That's okay.
Don't agree with any people.
What was the question again?
The question is, if I hand over my Java program to an IBMer and say, here's my Java file, is that okay to say that? Yes or no?
I'm gonna go with yes.
I'm gonna
Okay,
go with yes as well.
okay. So we have 3 yeses: Jacob, Jonah, Ethan, and Nathan.
I guess, yes, I say yes.
Okay,
I'll say yes.
okay, 5 yes, Ethan and Young, and Jacob.
I'll say no. There's enough yeses already.
Okay, and Jacob. Let's see if we can pass the bill. Okay. The correct answer is no.
Jacob wins.
No, it's Ethan that wins.
Oh,
Let's go. I knew it.
Okay, why is it incorrect is the next question. The reason is when you say the word file to an IBMer, the IBMer is thinking you're talking about some place where you can store data. For a Windows person, everything is a file. For an IBMer, file is only to be used if I'm trying to store data in it. For example, physical file, logical file, database file, print
yeah.
file, display file. Java is not a file. Java is a program type object. So it doesn't register with him or her. And like, what do you mean Java file? You know what I'm saying?
Gotcha. I forgot about
Okay.
logical files.
So when an IBMer is thinking, the IBMer is thinking in terms of object types. When a Windows person thinks in files. Everything is a file. It's an image file, it's a text file, everything is a file, but not to an IBMer. So when you say specifically the word file, it categorizes one of the subtype of an object. So this falls under a program object type versus file object type, okay? So those are some of the terminology differences that we have to keep in mind when we are communicating with IBM iOS people. Not that they were going to understand what you're saying, it's just like if you want to be correct. So that's basically, okay, so when I'm writing or I want to create a physical file member, okay, what is it that I want to make sure that is on the system ready before I can go about creating a physical file member? What is it that I should already have?
Physical file.
Source physical file.
Yeah. source
Okay,
physical file.
okay, and source physical file is put inside where?
Library.
In a library. So I need to make sure that I have a library, and in the library, I create a source physical file. Okay. In the source physical file, I create a member. Okay. Is member an object?
Yes.
No. If it was an object, then you would not need a source physical file to hold it. It could be directly accessible. Because you can always directly interact with an object. So source physical file is an object that holds the member source codes. When member compiles successfully, then it creates an object. Otherwise, it's not an object, it's just a member. Okay. Source physical file is an object. Of course, it is saved as a file, like a file. That's why you find it when you go in RDI and you go in the Data Explorer, you will see that when you go under tables, your source physical files are also listed there because it's a file. Your physical files are also listed there because it's a file. Your tables are also listed there because they are files. Okay, just to make sure that you understand that. So when you are to create a member and you want to write source code for the member, which utility on the green screen do you use to write the member source code? What is the name of the utility? Do not give me the command to start the utility. Tell me the name of the utility.
Source
Project
entry
develop-
utility.
Source entry utility, SEU. To start that, you use STR, okay? So now when you're done writing the member source code and you exit out of the member, now I need to compile. Which utility do I go to compile?
Product, PDM. I don't know what it stands for though.
Program Development Manager, PDM. Cool.
Okay.
When I go to the PDM and I am at the level where I want to compile my member, what type of screen is that? Help, menu, prompt list.
A prompt screen.
List.
It's a list screen because
Yeah.
you have a bunch of items, and to the left of the items, you have a little dash to punch in numbers.
14.
Okay, you put 14 to compile, right? Prompt has a description on the left and a big fill in the blank on the right. So that's the difference. A menu has numbers already written for you just to choose at the prompt level, the number of choice. So those are some minor differences between them. So once you are done compiling, and you want to check to see if it compiled correctly, what command do you type?
PSPMSG.
Yep. Okay. What is the difference between F3 and F12?
F3 exits, F12 cancels your last.
Can you give me an example where F3 and F12 act differently? And also give me an example where they would act the same way.
I think, doesn't F3 bring you back to the main menu and F12 just brings you back to the previous screen?
That's when they act differently, but they can
Oh, okay.
also act
Yeah.
the same way.
Same way.
Yeah. So let's say if you open a prompt, right? In the prompt, you open a help. So you are one level up from the prompt, right? So now F3 and F12 will act the same way. The F12
Right.
will cancel the help and F3 will exit the help. But if you're two levels up, you are in the extended help, then F12 will bring you back to the help and F3 will bring you back to the prompt. So then they will act differently. Okay.
Yeah.
Which utility do you use to type and run SQL? The question is as simple as, Alvin, what is your name?
This week or last week? No.
The utility to type and run SQL.
Gonna go off on a limb and say SQL.
Yeah, that's it. That's basically was the hint. Alvin, what's your name? It's Alvin,
Alvin.
right?
You got it.
So what utility do you use to put data in a physical file?
Data entry utility?
Close. Close. The middle word is not entry. It's data utility, correct? What's the middle word?
Database utility.
Nah. Data file utility, DFU,
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. okay? Okay. So IBM I is a multi-user operating system. Multiple people can access the operating system at the same time and can run things at the same time. You can set priorities for different people. What do you call the administrator of the operating system? What is the administrator called? It's not called administrator in the IBM world.
A user.
User is like a normal user, but what is the name for the administrator? The administrator is called security officer. Okay. Okay, now let's dig into chapter 1. Some of the concepts I already covered. The remaining concepts we're going to look at in chapter 1. And if you have your book, that's page number 1. So what is CL? CL is a control language, which is a set of commands that you use to control operations and to request system-related functions on the IBM iOS. There are over 2,000 commands integrated into the I, and the whole idea is to be able to control the operations. It is very much comparable to JCL. What is JCL? It's job control language, but what is it? What is it? Where do you use it? What is the other server platform IBM has besides midrange? Larger than midrange? More powerful? Costs a lot more money than a midrange? IBM is more famous for that versus midrange because a lot of people are not familiar with midrange. You know it. You've heard it. You've probably used that terminology too. IBM main complete.
Mainframe?
Yes, yes. So just like CL is used in mid-range, JCL is used on mainframes. The mainframe uses an operating system called ZOS as opposed to iOS. Okay. So a single CL command is called a command. This is basically a statement. A control language program is a collection of statements, and along with those statements, you also have the program logic with it. CL as shipped by IBM consists of thousands of commands, but still maintains a useful consistency that makes the language easy to learn and to understand. So we have groups of CL commands can be packaged as compiled program objects. On page number 2, talks about that CL program typically consists of multiple CL commands that define procedures or operations on the computer. By combining multiple commands within a CL program, you can automate most system-wide operations. You should write CL programs to perform repetitive processing, thereby reducing errors and operator user intervention. So whatever things you are doing on daily basis, things that you would do repeatedly, you are better off writing a script for that versus having to sit there and do the same task over and over again. So here are some examples on page number 2 in the bullet points, things that you should do with CL, or you can do with CL. So for those of you who have your books on page number 2, you can just read through the bullet points. Now let's move on to what CL is not, which is also on page number 2. CL is not a high-level language, so you should not expect to write complicated applications with CL. For example, transaction processing systems, grading systems, and things of that nature. It's not a high-level language. It doesn't have all the programming constructs of a high-level language. It should not be used to create complex systems. It has a lot of limitations. For example, it cannot add update database records. It can only open 5 files at a time. It doesn't support subfiles. Okay, it doesn't have communication with files. So it's very, very limited in that regard. Okay. CL programs, page number 3, control the workflow of an application by letting you create job streams. So when you are submitting a job to the system, it just creates job streams, which consist of CL commands to be executed in order. Within a CL program, you can alter the order of execution by testing various conditions that may exist during the execution of a job. You can monitor for errors that might occur when running job and perform corrective actions or abort the job. You can pass values or parameters to and from CL programs to make them more flexible. So if you want to call a CL program and preload some parameters, you can do that. You can call the program, preload some parameters. Those parameters will come into the CL program and will then be used to change the alter on the processing. A CL program can incorporate conditional logic and special functions that are not available when you enter individual commands on a command line. CL programs, unlike JCL, are implemented as compiled program objects rather than interpreted job streams. CL environment, execution environment is interactive as well as it could be batch. If it is interactive, you should call a program and stay active while the program runs, or if you submit to a job batch using submit job command, so it will going to run when you want it to run. So on page number 3 at the bottom, it talks about that using the submit job command, you can submit a CL program to run as bash, but commands can also be included within a Rex language procedure. Rex is a different language, which can be used for this purpose. I've given you a link on Blackboard under Unit 1 on Rex. So if you scroll down on Unit 1, you will find a link to Rex. You can click that link, and then you can click on Introduction. It's a versatile general purpose language used in IBM. And in the introduction, you can read about the introduction of the language, that what is a Rex and features of Rex. So I'll just set aside 2-3 minutes for you to do that read, and then we'll continue with the PowerPoint. So on Blackboard, under Unit 1, click on the link for Rex, and then click on Introduction, and read the first 2 links. What is Rex and features of Rex? Okay, now going back to the PowerPoint. This is how a typical CL program may look. That you would have some labels, which let's say here is greet, not required, but you can place them. It's an old programming language. You got to remember that. It requires that all the variables be declared at the top. You cannot declare variables wherever you feel like in the course of the program, unlike Java and C# where you can declare variables wherever. And then the rest of the program is pretty much about the meat of the main logic of your program. And then you can have your output. And as we go further into the course, you will also start seeing error handling routine. It starts out with the word PGM and it ends with the word NPGM. There are no curly braces for code blocks. And again, in next 2 weeks, probably we'll be able to start seeing the program's code. Now let's go to chapter number 2. Which is page number 7. This chapter talks about control language commands. So page number 7 talks about that all the commands are divided into verbs and subjects. We already talked about that. And you learn in chapter 1 that CL command is made up of thousands of IBM supplied commands. And how will you going to ever learn all these commands? Well, you do not need to ever learn all the commands. You can always find them. CL command names are limited to a maximum length of 10. The first 3 are verbs, the next 3 are subjects, and the last 3 are modifiers. On page number 8, the author shows you some abbreviation for verbs. So what is the abbreviation, the verb abbreviation for initialize?
INZ.
INZ, okay. What about submit?
SBM.
Okay, change,
DHG.
reorganize,
RGZ.
RGZ, okay, and release,
RLS.
override,
OVR.
OVR, okay. So in most cases, you will see that the vowels are dropped. Wherever, you can drop a vowel, you'll drop a vowel unless it's unavoidable, okay. On page number 9, it shows you the list of subjects and their abbreviation. For example, what is the abbreviated subject for folder?
FLR.
FLR.
Okay, and for file,
F.
and for tape,
TAP.
TAP, okay. So if I want to initialize a tape, what do you think should be the command?
INZ TAP.
Very good. Okay. If I want to create a library, what should be the command?
CRTLID.
CRTLIB, create, yeah. So that's basically how you make the combinations of nouns, but preceded by noun is the verb. So verb noun combination. Verb will always be leading, followed by a noun. Then comes a modifier on need basis. On page number 10, the author shares with you a list of phrases that, for example, if a phrase is active jobs, then subject modifier combination will be ACTJOB. Okay. If it is data area, then the subject modifier will be DTAARA. If it is job queue, it will be job and the letter Q. What is the abbreviation for subject user? What is the abbreviation of the subject user?
USR.
Okay. And what is the abbreviation for modifier profile?
PRF.
So if you email me and say, my account is disabled. So can you enable it? So I said, okay, give me your ID. You give me your ID. So now I got to work with that ID to fix the problem and change the parameter from disabled to enabled. What command should I type? What verb do I use from page number 8 if I'm interested in working with something?
WRK.
Okay, so I want to work with user profile. So what should be my command?
WRK USR PFR.
PRF.
RF. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, cool. Awesome. If I want to display a physical file, what command should I type?
DSBPF.
DSPPF. Awesome. Okay. So that's what page number 3 shows you. And page number 4, it says that, you know, if you are familiar with any other operating system, the other operating systems also have commands like DOS has a command called CD. It allows you to change directory. So here we have change current directory command as, you know, current, you know, I mean, it's very similar, but it's just like a little bit different. On page number 11, right at the top, there's a paragraph where author is telling you that if you learn approximately 40 verbs and approximately 100 subject abbreviations, with a combination, you can remember a lot of the commands. Because it's always a combination of verb, subject, verb, subject, verb, subject, right? So you can, with that combination, you can do a lot of work without having to look up for the command. Now, on the Blackboard, I have shared with you a link about creating CL program commands. So if you click on that link, it shows you the command to create a CL program is called crtclpgm. That's the command. Create, CL is the subject, and PGM is the modifier. If you scroll to the bottom of that, the very bottom of that, you will find some error messages. What happens is when you write a program, sometimes the program runs into errors. So if you are running a certain command in your code and it runs into an error, then you can always come to that command and see what error code is generated and what does that error code means. If you go slightly above that, you will see 3 examples of using create CL program, right? What is the third example's format? Is it keyword or positional?
Keyword.
Keyword, okay. Example 2, with more parameters, but the format is?
Also keyword.
Also
Yeah,
keyword,
keyword
okay.
as well.
Example 1,
Starts off as positional, then ends a keyword.
yep. So this is the example we looked at before. Remember when I was telling you what are the valid ways of doing it? So you
Yeah.
can start out with positional and then you can transition to keyword. But other way around is not possible, okay? Now there's another resource I have shared with you right below that called CL Command Finder. If you click that link. And if you're looking for a command by verb or by subject, whatever. So you can just come down here in the second box. And let's say if I'm looking for commands about library and I hit enter, It just goes out there and finds me all those commands with R, which has library in them. Or have anything to do with library. So that's a command finder. Okay. So what I am asking you to do during the week is to complete the assignment number 1. In the assignment number 1, I've given you the review questions from both chapters. Chapter number 1, review questions are it's actually on pages 5 and 6. And I want all review questions, all 9 of them. And then for chapter 2, the review questions are on page 12, and I want all the review questions, all 5 of them. This is a little bit time-consuming homework assignment where you will going to be writing the answers for so many questions down. So I want it to be done in a format. You will give me either a Word document or a PDF format, which you will just simply upload right here to the assignment 1. And the assignment is due by, no, that's wrong. It shouldn't say February 6th. It should be January 25th. I don't know why it says February 6th.
You're still a year off in your assignment.
Did I? Oh, is it 2022?
Yeah.
Oh,
You
it
wanna
did not. Oh, there
finish
you go.
it.
Thank you.
Otherwise, we're really late in our assignment.
Thank you. Oh, I probably did not run the date management tool. That's why there's a date management tool. Okay. So does anybody has any questions?
I guess those that don't have the book, you can go on Amazon and they'll give you a sneak peek of the first like 30 pages, which contains chapter 1 and chapter 2.
Here
Question.
you go. Here you go. That's a good way to be able to complete your work. In the meanwhile, your book arrives.
Yeah.
You guys know what Alvin is talking about? For those of you who don't have your books.
I'll paste a link in the chat.
Oh, cool. Awesome. Awesome. So you basically go to Amazon and then you click on look inside. And then you can actually see the preview of the book. So chapter 1 is there. Chapter 2 is there. Cool. And even chapter 3 is there. So
I
even
think
if
it's almost like chapter 6.
wow. So even if your book is delayed by a week or 2, like you still are good. I don't think so. It covers the entire chapter 4.
No, it drops them out. Yeah.
Yeah, it drops them out to pages 500 something. So at least, you have the first 3 chapters at least.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we will be looking at chapter 3 next week. So, I mean, if it doesn't arrive by next week, you have chapter 3 as well. Cool. Awesome.
Yeah. Awesome.
Okay, guys, then that's all for today.